All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday at 10 a.m. So, your favorite host, Tim Vitale, is back. Tim Vest is in Costa Rica right now on vacation, and I did not approve his PTO, but just kidding. He's not joining us this week again because he's on vacation with his family and having a great time. But this week, we got one of my buddies, John Evans. He, funny enough, was actually one of the maybe first or second people to come on the StreamYard Live when I had created the Making Moves Facebook group like 2 years. I think in May of 2021, I created the group. But you were one of the very first people to come in, and I appreciate you coming back. And John Evans, he's based out of Florence, South Carolina. If you don't know who he is, he's a partner in the Alliance Companies, which is a property management company that has vertically integrated other services like Stiggers Landscaping is a recent acquisition of his that he provides as a service to all his property management clients. And John just came out with a book. So I wanted to bring John on to kind of talk about where he's been over the last 2 years, how he's kind of grown and scaled out of the W-2 corporate life, how he's bought all these businesses and implemented this vision with partnerships, and ultimately ended up writing a book, which he's calling The Roadmap to Success. That's not the title of the book, but that's kind of like the gist of it. So, John, thanks again for joining us. Why don't you reintroduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, and tell us your story, man.
Yeah, man, it was great to be here again with you. You and I talk a good bit because we're doing some stuff together. So,
Yeah, John actually manages. Well, John's company manages one of the properties that I own in Florence, South Carolina.
Yeah, man, but it's great to be back on here, and I'm glad you brought up the fact that we actually did this. I think your first or second time together. I couldn't remember the date, but I was glad to know that I was either number one or number two. I'll take either spot when it comes to your podcast here. So I appreciate you having me on again. But yeah, I'm from Florence, South Carolina. For those of you who may not know me, we operate a company called the Alliance Companies, which basically was a merger back in 2022. Local investor here, Steve Atea here in Florence. We joined forces. He was doing a lot of things I was doing. We both had kind of done some property management. He sells real estate under the EXP brand, which is a part of the company as well. He also is a residential appraiser. And then we do property management, which we now have right at 380 some odd properties. Before we merged, I had another company on my own. I think we had like 440 properties, and it just got kind of chaotic. And we were managing some of the properties that we didn't really want to manage. They were very time intensive and just really weren't worth the money. They were, some of them were C-class properties, D-class properties in areas we just didn't really want to go in. So we offloaded some of the ones that were our pain point and kind of, we backed up and punted. It's very important in business to know whenever you need to do that and acknowledge it and go ahead and, just bite it off and do it. So we did, and we lost some, obviously, we lost some income out of it, but it was the income that you really have to, kill yourself for. And it just didn't really make sense. So we offloaded those properties, and that's when we merged. I said, hey, I don't want to bring you the pain point properties. I'm going to let those go, and then we'll merge, and then we'll start building the portfolio again around the properties that we want. And so we assembled a team. I brought over a couple people with me, but Steve already had some people with him, and we kind of assembled that team with some contractors, property manager in charge. We had an intern at the time, Evan, which we just hired full time once he graduated college. He's been a huge asset and an add to our company. Anyway, so we now manage, more on the apartment side, like, the property, Tim, you bought. It's a nice asset. We manage a lot of properties like that, and then we help kind of on the asset management side as well, and any type of renovations if we can help there. If we can't, we just we get involved with the owner and say, hey, we got 3 quotes here or 2 quotes here, and you get to pick who you want. So that's kind of how we align the property management side of things. And then we also operate fix and flip company within the Alliance brands as well, and we get certain percent of leads come off of the property management, because a lot of times we're the first ones to know if an owner wants to sell, whether it be a single family house, whether it be a small portfolio of single families, whether it be apartment complexes or whatever. A lot of times we're the ones that know ahead of time, if they want to sell. So we operate that fix and flip company that way, but we also have lead generators where we market, with VAs, where we can take down off market deals, mostly single family. But I think later on this year, because of the way everything's kind of pivoting with high interest rates and stuff, we're going to start marketing some commercial assets as well. Kind of like what you guys do, and see if we can pick up some mobile home parks, which we really like. I have one now and I love it. Cash flows real well. So I'm looking for some more of those. I'm also kind of looking for a few storage units if I can grab something like that, and add to my portfolio. And then we have rentals that we both own together. I'm sorry. Well, we have a few we own together that we've acquired recently. And then Steve has a whole portfolio of rentals, and I have one too. He's kind of the realtor in the area that's the outlier. Like I always say, it amazes me that realtors don't get high on their own supply, so to speak. They're like first in line. They know all these deals, but I don't know if it's that they don't have the capital, they don't know how to get the capital or whatever, but they just seem not, they don't, a lot of them don't buy properties. They just do the transactional side and sell. Where what he's done is he's basically over, I don't know, 15 to 20 years. I mean, hell, he's got a handful of properties or more that's paid for in full, that he just held for so long, and, they're cash flowing really well. So, he's kind of the outlier. He's done the investment game, also on top of the transactional side. So he gets the best of both worlds. So we meshed well. I do some things on my own. He does some things on his own, as well. So we got a pretty cool thing going. We're just right now we've acquired a landscaping company to add to our portfolio of businesses, and we have some pain points there. Things are going well. We got a big book of business, but we have to get very, very structured and organized on the scheduling side. And once we do that, I think things will really calm down for us. Right now, we're just trying to get our hands wrapped around, that company and some of the other things we have going on. So it's been pretty tough, the last quarter of last year going into the first quarter this year. But right now I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're going in the right direction is what that tells me.
Yeah, man, you've been making strides. There was a bunch of different postings about different business acquisitions and some property postings as well. And I'm sure you're probably going to start selling some of that stuff along the way here too. So just so everyone else knows, like, where did you come from before you were this, guy buying all these businesses and, oh, did we lose you there? No, there you are. You're buying all these businesses and, you got a bunch of real estate portfolio now. What was John like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, well, 2019, I was in corporate America. So, I was the guy that when I first kind of got the real estate bug, I was a teenager. My grandmother owned a small mobile home park, and I was kind of her property manager. I would cut the grass. I would help her do renovations and turn units and, collect rent and all that kind of thing. I'd earn gas money for the weekends. So that's really where I knew. I said, okay, I really want to do something in real estate. So I kind of started there. She was a corporate. She worked for Nucor Steel, large steel manufacturing in the country here. And she was an accountant. So she kind of was a savviness. She had a financial background. And so she taught me a lot of that stuff. I was in stock. I had to log in on my cell phone. Sorry about that. And I keep getting calls. But anyway, I tried to do not disturb, but they're breaking through. So anyway, I was in corporate America, but I started as normal, anybody does. Well, I was told by my grandparents, they raised me. So I was told, go to school, get a job, all the, Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff. You guys have probably read it. A lot of people watching, I'm sure, have. If you haven't, I would suggest reading it. Great book. But I did. I went to college, got a bachelor's degree in business, and then went off and went to grad school while I was working. So everything I've done, even up to now, everything I've done, I've always done it the hard way. I worked in a manufacturing environment as an operations manager where I led about 200 people, and I went to grad school while doing that. So I went to USC, University of South Carolina, School of Business, and it was tough. I mean, I was, studying until 2, 3 a.m. I'd be at the plant at 6 a.m. And I did that 4 and 5 days a week. And on the weekends, I would try to carve out what time I could with my family. But I always did things the hard way. So, I'm not opposed to getting, in the grind and working and, keeping my nose down when need be. But I'm also keen to understand when it's time to step back and look at the big picture, when it's time to grow and, figure out things from a visionary standpoint. So corporate America taught me that. So I got to say, I wouldn't trade that time. I just wish I would have stepped out a little bit sooner, because I see now where we're kind of growing and where our struggles are. I just feel like if I'd have started a little bit sooner, I probably could have been past those pain points. But I worked as operations manager for a large manufacturing company. I've always held leadership roles for the most part. I had a deep sense of finance. I would take finance courses in my grad school studies. I took some deep finance courses on purpose that I actually paid for outside of what the company paid for, just to get my feel for underwriting and how the banks looked at certain deals, real estate, businesses, personal properties, commercial properties. And I started learning underwriting. And I surrounded myself with a banker while I was still in corporate America, which is when I bought my first deal, actually my first two deals. So while I was working, my corporate America days, I was looking at properties because I knew I wanted to get back into real estate and figure out a way to create income on the side, number one. And then number two, how could I create, long-term wealth for my family? So I bought a duplex back in 2019. I think it was $126,000 purchase price, renovated one side, brought the rents up, created a lot of value in that property. I think we ended up creating about 60 grand worth of, or 70 grand worth of equity in it. And then my second deal was about a year later. And I think, Tim, you and I had talked about this one back whenever I bought it, or maybe back when I was looking to flip it and sell it. But I bought a 28 unit deal coupled with another 40 units from a local investor. It was 68 units total. So I went from 2 units. Actually, I had another couple small families, I think, at the time. But anyway, went from that to roughly a $3.7 million deal. So went from 126,000 deal, about 11 months later, jumped right into a large portfolio from a local builder, which we did a full seller carryback on the 28 units. And I owned them. And then the 40 units I had to bring in an investor on. So I learned how to raise money pretty quick as well, because I made a commitment to him that I'd get these deals done by a certain time. And I held that, commitment up.
Right.
I bargained up and I bought them all. The 40 unit deal, I basically sold kind of my shares out of that, but we still manage it. So I'm kind of the asset manager still on that one. We make a certain percent on that. And then the 28 unit deal, I had a partner in that deal, and we ended up, we added a good bit of value to it pretty quick. We put about, 60 to 70,000 in it over about a year and a half time. And then ended up flipping it. And we made a really good net on that deal. And a local investor bought that one as well. So that's kind of what I did up until now. And then all of 2021 or the end of 2021, last quarter of 2021, and all of 2022, I went crazy on the fix and flip side. And I did a few wholesales, but mostly on the fix and flip side. We did about 31 deals last year on fix and flip, and our net was very substantial, more than I ever had made. Didn't realize I could even make that kind of money. And we took a lot of that cash and poured it back into other investments and some business startups, and then also a business acquisition, mobile home park acquisition. And then I obviously put some cash in the bank so my wife and I are building a house. So
Nice. Man, that is so much to unpack. I mean, that's a really big story. A lot has happened for you over the last couple of years, but I want to come back to one thing that you had said, because I say it all the time, is that I don't regret any of the time that I spent in my W-2 world.
Right.
I am who I am today. My professional being is because of the corporate experience that I have. I don't discredit that in any way, shape, or form. And I almost feel bad for people that do discredit, time doing other things, because I ultimately believe that what you've done in the past has led you to where you are today. And
Yeah.
if those things hadn't happened, I potentially might not be where I am today, and maybe you either, right? So I love to hear that you appreciate your W-2 role, and you learned a lot of things from there. Really has taught you how to manage people, how to build systems and processes, and be a visionary. All of that stuff incredibly important when you're an entrepreneur, because you are the one that has to create, and I mean, you have to fix all of these problems. right? So having practiced it for however many years you did at your operations job is fantastic for you to be able to buy and operate these businesses and properties effectively, right? Because you've been in that position, not just, recently. It's been for a long time. It's in your blood now. It's how you think. It's molded how your brain operates, right? And that's probably why you and Steve are great partners, because you bring a different set of skill sets to the table than he does. And, the same reason why Tim Vest and I come to the table together all the time, okay? Because he's good at things that I don't like, and I'm good at things that he doesn't like. And it just works out, right? And it's important to find that person in your life that can be like the business partner or a business partner for you, because it's a heavy workload. It's a heavy backpack to carry the whole business. So you want to share that backpack with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, all right. So, I mean, you went from buying like a duplex and a couple units here and there, and then immediately scaled up to like a 68 unit property, which is job well done. I mean, applaud there. A job well done. Um, Doing, what did you say, 31 or 41 flips in a single year?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like
30.
2, 3 flips a month. That is a lot of people to handle. That is a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of transferring of cash and managing people. I mean, there's so much to that. And I think sometimes it can be underplayed, the amount of effort that has to go into managing deals like that. So I think a lot of that has all of that culminates into, I think, why you wrote your book.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's right. Yep.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your book. What was the mindset in, okay, I'm buying real estate, and now I own a bunch of different businesses. We're vertically integrated. We're your visionary path is being succeeded. What made you want to take a little detour over here and write this book? And like, what's its intended audience, and how's it going to help people?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I was definitely wanting to go next. I'm glad you brought us into that side, but here's the book, and we actually made, sorry, on this side. Yeah. We actually made the bestseller list, out of the gate, but it took some time, to get to that point. But thanks to a lot of people who bought this thing and has supported me, through the book and for the book. And because the reason I bought it, I mean, the reason I wrote it was because I really like, helping others. And I get a lot of questions, I'm sure you do as well, and a lot of people on this call, but I get a lot of questions on the outside when you post something, or people see you doing something, or like last year, I'd post like a closing, or I'd post a progress on a flip or whatever. A lot of people want to take a lot of your time and ask a lot of questions. So I was like, well, dang, how can I figure out a way to do one to many, type of concept? How can I get my message out there to help people? Because I get a lot of calls from people. The audience was people that were still in corporate America, or people that were in a job that they hated, or people that were in a business that was struggling. And they wanted to do something more, something that would impact themselves, their family, or other people around them. So that was one reason, that I stepped back and said, well, what if I wrote a book? Because I'd already kind of started a book. I think I actually put that in here, and I put it in another podcast I was on a few weeks ago. But I started a book, and the name of it, I still got a lot of the files, but the name of it was Why I Divorced Corporate America. That was going to be
That's a good name.
And so then I was like, well, crap, I don't want to tell. I was like, well, I don't want to tell why I did it. I want to tell how I did it. And so then I stepped back and I regrouped on how I actually, was able to build, something to the point where I could leave, $160,000 a year type of job,
Mm-hmm.
which is in my area, is pretty substantial salary. So I ended up writing about how I did it, and then kind of creating somewhat of a roadmap for people, that are looking to go out and do something kind of radical, if you will, because that's really what it takes. It takes a radical jump or radical mindset, radical movement in order to be able to do what, Tim, you did it. So you kind of relate to what I've done. That's why I did it, man. I did it to show people that you actually can do it. But, you got to have a plan. You got to have a roadmap. You got to figure out ways to, make moves. I mean, we're on this
That's
podcast.
right.
Moves. I mean, you absolutely have to do it. And if you can get out of the home office, or if you can get out of the cubicle, or if you can get out of the just day-to-day craziness and chaotic world of being in, like I was in a manufacturing environment, so it was pretty high, high volume and intense every day. And so all I could think about was where I was at. It was just right through these lens only. And a lot of people get stuck like that, man. They're safe. They get the cushiness. They understand that if they're going to get their paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, and they're okay with that. But you can be so much more if you want it, And I'm gonna be honest with you. There's so many people that want it, that admit it, and then there's a lot of people that want it that don't admit it. So you have the two versions of yourself, and so I'm talking to both of those audiences, and there's a lot about it in the book on both sides of that. You want it, but you don't really know how to do it and what to do, and then there's ones that want it, but yet they know what to do. They're just scared. There's fear factor.
One thing I got a question for you, and this is just to spark conversation. Is it's been said that not everyone is meant to be a number one. How do you address that in your book of it's okay to be somebody's number two, right? Because a lot of people that I think fall into those categories that you're talking about right now are people that would love to leave their job, but maybe they're not really meant to leave their job because they think they can handle and they want to handle, but maybe they really can't handle the pressure and the stress and have the self-discipline and do everything that's necessary in order to be, the boss. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, there's a place for those, and everybody needs them. I need them. We all need them, and you have to feed them to the point where they want to be fed. And then, what I mean by that is, you have to give them that satisfaction in the role. I mean, I have a guy right now working with us. He's been with me for actually almost the whole time that I've been out on my own. He was actually selling insurance, and it just was unstable at the time, and he reached out to me just one night on the phone. And I mean, you and I had some of these conversations too, Tim, but at 9 o'clock one night, he texted me, "Hey, this is what I'm up against. This is what I need to do." And my first question with him was, "Well, if you want to leave, do you believe in yourself to be able to make it?" And I asked him point blank. I was a little blunt about it. I said, "Well, do you believe in yourself? I don't need to believe in you. Do you believe in yourself?" And he was like, "I absolutely do, but I feel like I need, some help. I need somebody beside me. I need some guidance." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's see. Let's take a go at it." So I think you need to give them the satisfaction as well. And you absolutely, and we're getting ready to restructure some of this in our company, but you absolutely have to give them some buy-in. They have to have, whether it's profit sharing, whether it's equity share or what have you, once you can get to that point, that's how you engage them in. They're out here helping you operate your business, but they're also kind of operating their own business as well. Like I'll use Heather for example. You deal with Heather some, and you deal with Evan and some of the people at our office. We basically just opened up and told Heather 2 months ago, "You run it. You run all the property management stuff. It's your baby. You run it. This is your business." And I'll be honest, we check in, once or twice a week. We have meetings. They just had a meeting this morning at 9 o'clock. They're reporting on certain properties. Your property is one of them. Other properties,
Number one property, right?
That's the first one on this.
That's right.
Yeah. But that I think you absolutely have to give them that satisfaction as well. And now you're going to have players on your team that don't want that. They want to be shy. They want to sit in their desk, and they want to have that one task or two tasks throughout the day. And they want to be the best at those tasks and those tasks only.
Mm-hmm.
And 100% fine. But what you got to figure out is, what are those tasks that really, really keep them motivated and engaged? And if you can find that out, through talks and through being around them and getting to know them, now you've established a huge team that's full of A players, and you're able to grow. They're able to grow through you, and you're able to grow through them, which is something that I did put in this book, and there's a whole chapter on it. But I saw someone ask about the title. The title is "The End Game," is the title of the book. Maybe we can put that in the chat. But anyway,
Yeah, I will. I just, man, I love it, right? Because I know everything you're saying is true. You have to give people autonomy. You have to pay people to do what they do and trust them to get it done, right? When somebody takes ownership of it, they deliver, right? And I don't know. I mean, and this could just be my own personal inner limiting belief. Let's call it that, right? It's like, you and I, we both took drastic measure to leave our corporate jobs. Do you ever feel bad about being the guy that's, kind of the one that's tying the golden handcuffs?
I don't, with who we have now, I don't, because there's family. You know,
Sure.
I say this too, and we actually we have a post on a job. My thing is, come join a family. Don't come join a job. Don't come join a
Yeah.
company. Come join
Yeah.
a.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. A small business is a way different environment than a corporate setting. I think that's it. That's the key difference. I think that maybe I was missing in my own brain was that it's not yeah, you are employing people because that's what they're looking for, right? First and foremost.
yeah,
But secondly, it's like, well, it's not a corporation. We're not a publicly traded company. Like, all of us are in it for the same reasons right now is to, make food and make money to provide food and shelter for our families, right? And whether you're at the front of the ship or one of the people rowing the boat, it doesn't really matter. You're still in the same direction. And I think that it's a different kind of environment that when you're working for a small business than what you would generate in a corporate career. But like what your grandparents had told you, and my family had always told me, go to school, get a good job, work for the man, work your way up for a Fortune 500 company. Like that's what you're going to do to succeed in life. But that's not really, that's not the end game, right? It's like,
right.
the people that created those businesses, they're living the end game. So it's really interesting, it just and I'm not trying to like put you in a bad spot or anything. It's just I think it makes for good dialect. It makes for good conversation just to kind of have a different understanding because I guarantee you somebody that's watching this or will be watching it later is probably had the same thought. They're like, "Well, I mean, aren't you the man now?" Right? And
Yeah,
it's a yes and it's a no, right? Because there's a place for everybody. I think ultimately what we're trying to say is that there's a place for everybody in every organization. Where you decide you want to be in that organization is determined by your end game, right? Where do you
right.
want to end up? What is the risk and the responsibilities and the roles that you want to assume? And what level of success do you want to have? And some people, like I literally had a conversation with one of my cousins yesterday, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, man, you going to go start that business?" He goes, "Actually, I don't think I want to." And I was like, "Hey, that's fine. You don't have to, right? Like nobody has to go out there. Like the definition of success is not go start a business, right? That's not the definition of it.
That's right.
And that's completely fine too. So it's really interesting, right? Because your end, and I love the title of this book, right? Because you decide what your end game is, and using this book, you can decide, hey, do I want to be a number one, a number two, a number three, or do I not really give a shit?
Yeah, and I'll use this quick example of one of our kind of a why here, and kind of what you're hitting on is I would have never been able to do what I'm getting ready to describe in corporate America. But we had a team member in one of our companies that had an issue come up, and they you know had fallen on a hard time, and they needed us. They needed some help, and they called on us. We ended up having a meeting on it between Steve and I, and we decided, you know what, we're going to go forward with it.
Hmm.
It kind of, it put us in a little situation where we had to go pull some capital from some stuff, that we had it sitting there. We didn't absolutely have it there for that purpose, but
Hmm.
we repurposed it, and we were able to help them. And I'll be honest with you, when I met with him and his wife on it, and we said, hey, we're going to do this for you, and we ended up signing up to help them. When I drove off that afternoon, I mean, I had a tear in my eye, because it was like, you know what, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Like, we're doing this to be able to help people, and yeah, I mean, I don't look at it as I'm a number one, so to speak, but you know what? I am number one whenever it comes time to help somebody. And if
Yeah.
they know good and well they can come to us, and we'll do
Hmm.
whatever we have to do in order to figure out a way around their obstacle.
That's right. Yeah, one of the things that we talked about when you were first on the show was being a go-giver, right? Like I remember that now after you've said that was like the subject of our show was being a go-giver. And that at the end of the day is what's going to define you and your legacy and how people remember you. Was John Evans or Tim Vitale somebody that I could call and they would help me out to the best of their ability if they possibly could? Yes, right. Are you a trustworthy individual? Do you just help people out of the goodness of helping people? That is what people are going to remember your character as. And that's what I want people to remember me as. And I'm sure you do too. It's not always what you create and how much money you got in the bank account that people remember you by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't share the team member. I wouldn't share because
No,
me
of
telling
course not.
I was the only it's the only time anybody else even knew about it.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't tell, and we do things undercover like that because that's, to be honest, that's
It's the right thing to do.
it's the right thing to do. It's why we're in business. It's why we're doing what we're doing, and it's truly to help our customers, to help our team members, and to grow through them, and them grow through us, and that's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I love it. All right, John. Man, I always love talking with you. I mean, you and I could sit here and talk for hours and hours. We still have yet to get on one of them big, beautiful sport fishers and go deep sea fishing. But I did my deep sea fish. I did a course like 2, 3 weeks ago. I learned how to do like set up all the ballyhoos and rig all the baits and set up the trolling lines and everything. So I'm ready, man. You let me know when we're going offshore, like way offshore, and I want to get the big one, Kunu. I'm ready.
Sounds good. We definitely need to plan that.
All right, John, how can people get a copy of your book, or if they want to reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing and how you've built your business?
Yeah, man. The copy, you can go to Amazon, and get a copy of it. And then, so what I could do, I could shoot you the link, or if you have the link already, we could post it. But you
I
go on.
don't. Send it, text it to me, and I'll attach it to this.
Yeah, perfect. I'll do that.
Not
And
right this second when we hang up.
yeah, and then it's my email is John at the alliancecompanies.com, and we can put that in chat as well.
Mhm.
Anybody can email me, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook a good bit, so you can IM me on Facebook or DM me, and we can jump on a chat that way, and I'll exchange numbers or anything we need to do there. But I love helping people, man. I love talking to people. So I'm open. I usually try to leave Friday afternoons, for a little bit of a time where I can give back and give my time to people.
Awesome. Hey, John, thanks again. Really appreciate you being here today. And we'll have to do this again in a couple of years and get a little update of how the book's going, how the next book is going, how
Right.
the businesses are trending. Like, I mean, it's just amazing to see your growth and like how we've both grown together and changed over the last couple of years. So, an honor to call you my friend and appreciate your time here.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, buddy, and thank you for creating this group. It's a very good group.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Bye.